Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and I'm going to assemble their MDF owls. Hey, so I'm using the brand new MDF owl dies, the hanging and the standing. I'm using Jaded Blossom's Gnome, Owl Faces stamp set and their Gnome Friends owl dies. There we go. And the MDF Standing Base die. I also pull in the Gnome Dies Winter Add Ons as well. So first I'm taking some paper tray ink fine linen cardstock, and I'm going to stamp two faces from Jaded Blossom's Owl Face stamps in Versafine Clair Nocturne ink using my Misty. And I'm just picking out my two faces, and then I will do some stamping here in just a moment. So this is usually what I do. If I'm making more than one, I get them both on there. That's the nice thing about a Misty, you can stamp things more than once. So I'm pulling out some EK Success chalk, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball where the cheeks would be. And I'm going to chalk blend some cheeks on both of my owls. And you know, this doesn't have to be perfect. Owls don't have pink cheeks, right? This is just in Leanne's imagination they do. They're like all blushing owls out there. So next I'm going to stamp on the cute little faces with that Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. It's kind of my favorite. Be careful because it can smear. You got to let it dry. And this ink is not Copic friendly. So when I use Copic markers, I'm very careful not to touch the ink. Otherwise, you should use some, Copic friendly dye ink. So I'm pulling out the Gnome Dies Winter Add Ons as well. And I'm using Doodlebug-Happy Haunting 6-inch pad and the Let It Snow 6-inch pad. Okay, so first I'm going to put together my little owls, the hanging owl. And I'm adding some Barely Art glue, covering the whole MDF piece. I kind of do it both ways. Sometimes I cover the paper, sometimes I'll cover the piece itself. And this is American Crafts black cardstock, and I just use this. It's completely, covered. But I use this just to allow, it's easier to glue paper to paper, So I weight down that paper and glue it down, and then it's easy to add the other pieces on. So I'm going to add on, this is the striped Halloween paper from Doodlebug-Happy Haunting 6-inch pad, adding that to Jaded Blossom's MDF Standing Base die, and I do weight it down. I'm going to add that same American Crafts black cardstock to my other owl. This is my standing owl, and I'll just use my Barely Art glue and get it all stuck down. There, you just want to make sure it's lined up with the edges. It's cut to the perfect size. So these MDFs, it's just another way to use your little owl dies. It's just a lot of fun. I think kids could put these together as well. So I cut out this head this is kind of like a light brown cardstock from American Crafts, and I'm just going to layer that in place. There. And then I'm going to add his little body. That's the same color. And that same Barely Art glue. And I'm always generous with the glue because you want it to stick down well onto these MDF pieces. And I do weight it down. And I'll do the exact same thing to this next owl. So I'm making them the same colors. This is that American Crafts light brown cardstock. I do like using American Crafts cardstock with Jaded Blossom's dies. It just cuts really well. It's got a nice texture to it. Pretty sturdy. I quite like it. So next I'm adding on the body of my standing owl. There we go. And I will weight it down with an acrylic block. And now I'm going to put together my little Gnome Dies Winter Add Ons, the earmuffs and the scarf. So remember, if you don't have this set, you could use the penguin dies, the Gnome Dies Penguin Add-ons, because there's little earmuffs on that set and a little scarf as well. And I went ahead and I cut it out again. So I cut it out twice out of craft cardstock just for some sturdiness because it's going to stick out past the owl. And then I cut it out again mostly in this blueprint because I wanted the blueprint on that little wire piece. And then I'm going to add in the little earmuff pieces, and that's cut out of pink Doodlebug pattern paper from the Let It Snow pad. And I'm just going to add those in place. I just think it's super cute, And so this little owl is going to have some earmuffs on. And like I said, I use some craft just to layer it up to make it thicker. Just so, you know, it's a little bit sturdy because it's sticking up past the owl. Now I'm going to put together the little scarf. You see that I layered it with some craft cardstock just to make it a little bit thicker. I find it adds a little something. It also sticks out past the owl as well on the sides. So I wanted that to, you know, the craft to show on the back, not the pattern paper. So I'm layering up those scarf pieces. Like I said, if you don't have the Gnome Dies Winter Add Ons, you could use the Gnome Friends Penguin Dies. There's a scarf and little earmuff set that you could cut out that I'm sure would work with the owl as well. Okay, so I'm layering that up. That's a fun plaid paper from Let It Snow from Doodlebug, the 6-inch pad. So now I am taking out a Copic marker in YR18, and I'm just going to very carefully color in the beak, trying not to touch any of the black. And then I'm using Copic in R27 just to fill in the little tongue on this one. There. Now I'm taking a jelly roll, number 10, and I'm going to add some little freckles on the cheeks. And I'm going to color in the whites of the eyes as well, using a number 5 and the number 10. I'm actually using a number 5 for some highlights on the beak and the tongue as well on this one. There, and I'll add the same little highlight on this beak, and I'm going to color in the whites of the eyes and the little eye highlights with my Sakura white jelly roll pen and a number 5 and a number 10. The number 5 makes it easier to get in these small places, but I do prefer the number 10 for adding bold highlights. It's just, they're nice and white and bold, and you know, I just find I have no trouble with those markers drying out. They're just great. So I'm going to just finish coloring the little eyes, and then I'm going to take that number 10 to add the big highlights to these eyes. And I just think these little faces are adorable, right? And I'll add some freckles to these cheeks as well, because why not, right? And there we go. They're just too cute. So next I'm going to layer on this next. This is like that little brown feather piece. This is American Crafts brown cardstock, and I'm going to add them in. They're almost kind of like owl eyebrows, right? So I'll add those in place, and I'll do the same to both. I kept both of these owls the same color. So I'm just layering that up, and then I'll add it on the hanging owl as well. There, and I do weight it down with an acrylic block. Next I will add on the little faces there, and those line up perfectly with the eyebrows. They fit right in there. I'll do the same thing with both, and then I will weight it down with an acrylic block just to make sure it dries nice and flat. There. Now one of them can be a Christmas ornament. You could make tags. You could have your standing owl standing on a tiered tray, and your however you want to decorate them for any holiday. Next, I'm just taking a piece of twine. I believe this is my Mind's Eye twine in like a pink baker's twine. And I'm adding that to my little owl ornament there. And next I will get my little earmuffs in place. I'm just going to add some glue on the inside of those earmuffs, and then I will stick that down in place. Okay, so adding on those little earmuffs. And like I said, I did layer up these earmuffs to make them thicker because they are sitting outside the MDF piece. I'm just taking off any extra glue that kind of seeped through with my little poker tool there. And I'll use my reverse tweezers just to hold them in place, just so they can, you know, make sure that they glue down. I'm using shape sprinkles from Doodlebug. And I'm adding on this really cute little candy corn. And I'll have this little owl holding the candy corn. So this is a little owl that'll be for a Halloween tray. And I'm going to add this other little wing on. So it looks like he's holding the little candy corn, which is fun. Next, I'm going to use the little feet. I'm using the sitting feet this time, and I'm popping them up with Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, the miniature ones. And I will add that on its base first, because that sort of gives me, you know, so I know where the little feet should go. And there we are. Isn't he cute? Oh my goodness. So this one, I'm going to add on her little feet. And the feet I cut out of orange zest cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. And I'll add the little standing feet to this little owl. And I have the little, the scarf, but I'm going to add the little wings first. I'm not going to have this owl holding anything just because that, you know, that scarf kind of takes up a lot of space. And, you know, that way you can just see the little scarf and have nothing else competing. So isn't this a sweet thing? Oh, I just think the scarf is adorable. So there's the little standing one, and there's my hanging one, maybe for a Christmas ornament. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team, and the Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on these amazing products. Bye, everybody.